All right, so you all know you have gotten your super bonus points for the year. Some of you, Ella and Maya, you guys are like racking up the points. Very nicely done. Very nicely done.
Do you have a special book where you're writing?
Yeah, you know what? God has a special book, and he's like, oh, Ella and Maya, check. They're here every week.
I hope you're going to send us at least a special angel and some support to say hello.
God actually told me that. God was like, yep, I'm hooking Ella and Maya up this year. All right, so. Let's try this. Ah, there we go. Were you saying something, Abby? It starts on Tuesday. Tuesday, yes. So you have a few days that are not holidays, but it kind of feels like holidays. I also have to give a super shout out to our staff who already put up the sukkah, which was like so amazing. I can't even believe it's up already. All right, my friends. All right, so as you might have expected, tonight is going to be a little bit of a abbreviated service because everyone is still slightly pooped from Yom Kippur. At least I know I am. But let's just start by welcoming each other and singing Hinei ma tov u'ma na'im, how good and pleasant it is to be here, brothers and sisters, family and friends. Hinei ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov u'ma na'im, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. All right, here comes the moment everyone waits for to see. Can Rabbi Amy light the candles? The answer is almost always no. We'll see. I did practice in the other room and I still didn't get it, so. Beautiful. Okay. See, it's magical every time. All right, so for friends who are watching at home, this is always how we begin our Shabbat together. We take a moment and separate the week that was and take a moment to bring in Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we do our Shabbat blessing over the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. And we have, that's good grape juice. All right, so then we have challah. This challah is still round. It doesn't have to be round anymore, but still nice to sort of have that roundness to symbolize the new year and things coming around again. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. All right. So let's see. Let's do another sort of opening song just to get us all in the mood. So this one, let's see if I can find a page number for us. All right, so if you turn to page 10, this is Maya Fehayom, and it just means how beautiful is this day that we're spending together, this day of Shabbat. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful. All right, I am slightly discombobulated this evening. There we go, okay. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to ask you, if you will, let's turn it to page 28, and I'll invite you to rise, and we're going to call each other to worship. Now, it is a tradition, sometimes people, when they do this, the service leader, whoever he or she may be, will bow to the congregation, and the idea is really just to sort of be welcoming each other to the sacredness of this moment. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Beautiful. On page 31, this is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. On page 34, we turn to the words of the Shema. And, in our congregation, and in many Reform congregations, the tradition is to say the whole Shema all together. But a more traditional way to do it is actually just to say the second line very quietly or silently every time, except for on Yom Kippur. So on Yom Kippur, I felt like we were singing it really loud. Tonight, you can still say it as loud as you like to, but the tradition is that you're really saying this first part, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, very loudly, and then the Baruch Shem Kavod is kind of like just a quiet sort of personal response. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. And we continue on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'ribarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshortam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu latotofot beinenecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. 39, standing on the part of shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. And we sing Mi Chamocha, the song that our ancestors sang as they marched together from slavery to freedom on page 40. Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Kamocha נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות, אוסף אלה. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. In the evening services, we always follow Micha Mocha with Hashkivenu. In this time of year, it feels especially awesome to sing this song because, as Evie just reminded us, in just a few days we start the holiday of Sukkot, and Hashkivenu asks God to spread a sukkah over all of us, a sukkah of peace. If you are looking for a sukkah of your own, you can get one on sukkah.com. However, you can also come and you're more than welcome to use the sukkah that we have at Temple Israel. If you go on the website, you just sign up for a time so that anyone can use it if you like. We've never had someone sleep in the sukkah, but I think you could if you want to. And that is the tradition, actually, is that you're supposed to do everything in the sukkah that you can, except if it rains. And then you get to go in. But David, did I ever teach your class the lesson of how you know how much rain is too much rain? Okay, so this is one of my favorite lessons because it's so random. So the teaching actually is that if you are having a bowl of soup in the sukkah and the rain falls into your soup and ruins the soup, that's when you know it's time to go inside. So there's no teachings about like lightning or anything like that. But the soup, God forbid the soup is ruined, then you know you got to go inside. All right, so, but we sing Hashkivenu, asking God at all times to spread a sukkah over of us on page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Beautiful. All right, so because we are a small but mighty group tonight, I know you all, so I can talk to you and tell you that I know that there are some of you who know these prayers by heart and have been doing them your entire lives, and for some of you, they're a little bit new. I also know that sometimes the toughest part is not even just the Hebrew, but it's the tunes. So, two things to tell you. First is that the tunes are not magical. That there are so many different versions of these tunes, and every tune that's in here is really just there to help you learn the Hebrew. If the tunes don't work for you, that is okay, and you don't have to learn them. I always tell people that I had a teacher who told me that you could sing any prayer and anything in the Torah to the Grateful Dead, and it would not be sacrilegious. So, I'm not suggesting you try, but apparently it does work. But don't let the tunes throw you off. Don't let the words throw you off, because even this next prayer that we're going to do on 46 that we call Tefillah, Tefillah means prayer, and it was written by people just like you and me, just trying to find ways that they would be able to talk to God and communicate to God. But there's nothing about these words that are necessarily holier than whatever you're thinking in your heart. So I'll invite you, if you will, on 46 to please rise, and you can join in these words with me, but if you are so inspired to offer the words of your heart, that is also just as good. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Ba'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh Kol Atzarav Lehoshia, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'ofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem emunato lishanei afar, michamocha bal gevurot, umido melach, melech meimit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lechayot hakum, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Please be seated. All right, so I said there were two things before. I forgot to tell you the second one. That's what happens the day after Yom Kippur. So the second thing that I was going to tell you is, if you're feeling at all lost, first of all, everything is on the website, but in November, we're going to start a class on Sunday mornings. When some of the kids are in religious school. Yes, we are going to do that. Okay. And it's called Beyond Baruch. And the point is that if you are someone who finds the Hebrew and especially the prayers challenging, we are going to go through the prayers like one at a time to help people understand exactly what it is you're saying. Because even some of us sometimes who grew up Jewish and grew up learning these prayers, you may know them and have no idea what you're actually saying. So that will be an opportunity to come and learn a little more if you're so interested. And that is in a few weeks once the holidays are behind us. So we're going to turn now, though, to page 60, and we're going to offer a prayer for peace, just thinking of people all over the world in this time in history who could use just a little bit of wholeness in their lives, a little bit of peace to come their way. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Ki atah melech adon lechol shalom. Ki atah melech adon lechol shalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובחושך בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך Beautiful. And at this point in our Friday night service, we always like to skip forward quite a bit, and we're going to turn to page 253. And this is a prayer that, as you may know, is not usually said, actually, on Erev Shabbat. This is usually a prayer that we only say when the Torah is open in front of us, but in many congregations, and certainly in ours, we know that this is the prayer that so many people come here for, because they have people in their lives who are in need of healing. So before we do this prayer, if there is someone that you're thinking of who you're here praying for tonight, who would appreciate knowing that their names were said, I would invite you to share them at this time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we're thinking too of Lisi Weinstein and Arlene Alper, of Jerry Krause and Aubrey Craig, of Beverly and of Ida, of Rita, of Kelly, and we're thinking of Jenny, and we're thinking of Drew. And we're thinking of each of you who are at home or in need of healing and perhaps are not quite ready for us to share your name, but know that we are thinking of you. We are wishing you healing and wholeness and hope that this new year brings it your way. Mi sheberach Avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. I'm going to take just a few moments for silent prayer to offer the prayer of your heart. Ratzon imrefi ve'gyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri All right, so my friends, you know that a new year is upon us. And, even though Rosh Hashanah is a little bit different than the secular New Year, that most of us, we look at this new year as a time where we should do something different, as a time where we should become the best version of ourselves. And so sometimes we make these resolutions, right? That this is the year that will make things right with people we love. This is the year that will make healthier choices. And many of us, myself included, I set these great goals for myself, and almost immediately I mess it up. I mean, there is something about this day, the day after Yom Kippur, that I find that somehow all of my best intentions and all of my resolutions, they somehow seem to go downhill. And it's a terrible feeling because here you've put all of this thought into doing things right. And when you mess it up right away, it almost makes you feel like, well, what can I do now? I may as well start all over. And so I thought, just in case some of you watching at home or some of you are feeling that way, that I would offer you this beautiful story. It's about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. And the story goes that Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, that he is praying in front of the congregation, and he is, putting his all into it, and he's praying so deeply and fervently, and just for a moment, he closes his eyes, and immediately, he's magically transported to the heavenly court. And see, he goes, up wherever the heavenly court is, and God is up there, with all the angels, and they have this giant scale. And on this scale, they are weighing the good and the bad of the humanity. And I'm sorry to say that the good is not doing so well. That as God and the angels are measuring how well humanity has done, that it's not looking too good for people and how things are going to be in the year to come. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, he looks at this and he says, God, this is really not entirely our fault. If you had wanted for us to be so good as the angels, then, you wouldn't have ever taken us out of the Garden of Eden. You wouldn't have put all of these temptations in front of us. And God is like, well, it's very interesting. I'm listening. Tell me more. And so Reb Levi, he starts sort of explaining. And as he's doing this, the scales, they're starting to change. And really, things are starting to look better for humanity. And the angels are all sort of excited. They're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Finally, humanity is going to be redeemed. And as Reb Levi Yitzchak, as he is trying to explain why humanity is worth saving, he's sort of able to look down on his congregation in Berdichev, and he looks down and he sees that one of his congregants, Eliezer, who's been fasting all day, that Eliezer is starting to get a little bit woozy. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak is looking down, and he sees Eliezer, and he's sort of a little bit shaky, and the rabbi realizes that, his sermon or whatever he's been doing, he's been gone in the heavenly court for so long, and they're just all waiting for him down in his congregation. So he, sort of magically transports himself, and he finishes up the service so that Eliezer doesn't faint, and he's fine. And God is like, you were about to save all of humanity. I mean, you were so close. The scales were finally getting even. What did you do that for? And the rabbi says, there's no reason that just because I want to save humanity, that Eliezer should have to suffer. He says sometimes just saving one person is enough. And I love that idea, because I think that so often we get these ideas in our head of how we're going to make everything better. We're going to make our families better, and we're going to make our job better, and our community better, and we're going to save the environment, and we're going to do everything right. And you probably can't. And that's not intended to be a downer. It's just that most of the problems in this world are too big for us. But that doesn't mean that we still can't do something to make the world a better place and to maybe save things just a little bit by helping one person at a time. So my challenge for you as you go into this new year, knowing that you may feel tired, that you may feel that already you have not put yourself in a position to reach the goals that you wanted to reach, that maybe if you just do things one thing at a time, save one person or one relationship or do one task, that maybe that will be the thing that it finally takes to be able to make those scales even. So, starting next week, I want to remind you that of all of the different things that you can do to sort of bring some wholeness to yourself and to your community, that part of what you're able to do is come here and celebrate these holidays together. Next week, because it is Sukkot, we will still be having a regular service in here, but we will have the opportunity afterwards to head out to the sukkah. Again, it's a weird year because we're not supposed to be all eating and drinking in public, so we're not going to have the sukkah party like we usually do, but still everyone is welcome to come out. We will have some treats. We'll be able to schmooze and all that, and we also have the lulav and the etrog. So if you want to do a little bit of the shaky shake, you'll have that opportunity and come enjoy with us. So I would like to ask you now, if you will, to please turn to page 282 and rise, and we'll join in the words of the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות,
ולא שמנו כמשפחת האדמה, שלא שמחקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
On 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
So as we always do, we turn our thoughts at this time to those who have departed this earth, our loved ones, and those who were taken from us in our community. We recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. Sigmund Baer, Ida Baumgarten, Georgia Braun, Marcus Brown, Rosella Cutter, Richard Fisher, Bobby Ann Fox, Isaac Frank, Eliza Frank, Melville Friedman, Leo Fuller, Harry Goldberg, Private Fred Golding, who died in the service of our country, Pauline Ziegler Gordon, Ada Greenwald, Rose Greger, Benjamin Kessel, Bela Kolodner, Lena Kohlenbrenner, Bobby Kozlow, Evelyn Lacoub, Second Lieutenant Robert Leventhal, who died in the service of our country, Anna Marcus, Isadora William Mendelson, Abraham Miller, Jesse Meyer, Samuel Pasternak, Gussie Perlmutter, Leon Harrison Rosenblum, Leona Sachs, Flora Scallett, Sandra Schultz, Hazel Meyer Schweig, Marvin Seidler, Ben Silverman, Minnie Simon, Adeline Simon, Sally Simon, Joanne Glazer Steinbaum, Kelly Susan Weil, Paul Richard Wing, Alice Richter Winston, Estelle Wishnuff, and Stephen Blake Wolfson. So with these names and the names we keep in our hearts, we turn to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitzkadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabba, ba'alma divarach cheruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'izman kari v'emru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach la'alam olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha barichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'emru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'emru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
So noisy. All right, so let's do one more closing song. This one has sort of become, this was a high holiday song, but I love it so much that I love to do it all the time. So this is We Return. And the idea of we return is really to say that every time we start over again, we start a new year, we start a new habit in our lives, we remember that it's always trying to somehow find our way back to God and back to the very best versions of ourselves. We return, we return, we return, return again. We return, we return, we return, return again and again to you, to you, to you. We return again to you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shana Tova. And again, consider yourself with bonus points like crazy. She was worried about what? Oh, yes. You got so many points, Jessica. You know what? How you got the most points? Because you were dancing, and your dancing made me feel so good.